Why does Dumbledore see socks in the mirror? Hey brother! One of the most important scenes in all of Harry Potter happens in Philosopher's Stone after Harry is given the invisibility cloak by Dumbledore. Harry explores the castle and stumbles upon the Mirror of Erised, which shows you your heart's desire, and we learn what Harry desires most is not riches or longevity or honorifics, but family and love. And for a boy who grew up with nothing and suddenly found out he was a famous wizard...
I'm a what?
A wizard.
A what?
A wizard.
That says a lot, and it certainly impresses Dumbledore, who planted the mirror here specifically to see what Harry would see. And it showed you the only way to thwart Lord Voldemort, not immortality or riches. Harry, have you any idea how few wizards could have seen what you saw in that mirror? And Dumbledore is, of course, speaking from personal experience here, as in Fantastic Beasts, we get a look back at what a younger Dumbledore saw in the mirror. Grindelwald. Now, of course, you could interpret that as Dumbledore also wanting love, but based on his own reaction to Harry's vision, Dumbledore certainly doesn't seem that impressed with himself, at least then. Of course, you could also interpret it as Dumbledore longing for power, or to be able to go back and correct the mistake he made, or just for the relationship to have been real rather than a facade by Grindelwald. And yet, when Harry asks Dumbledore what he sees in the mirror, Dumbledore gives him a very different and surprising answer. I see myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. Harry stared. One can never have enough socks. Another Christmas has come and gone, and I didn't get a single pair. People will insist on giving me books. Now, to his credit, Harry fairly immediately suspects him of lying, which we later find out he is, but why does he come up with socks of all things to begin with? Well, I assure you, it's not just a joke. The answer is actually way more profound than you might think, and today, we get to the bottom of it. But y'all, we need to take a quick pause right there to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Factor. Okay, so maybe it's just me, but like when the sun starts setting sooner, it completely changes my outlook on evenings. Like even indoor activities like cooking feel like they're running late when it's dark by 5:30. And that just makes cooking seem harder. Also, actually, my kids having to get ready for school when it's still dark outside. They're like, but it's the middle of the night. And you're like, no, it's not. And they're like, it's dark outside. And you're like, no. And that's why I love a Factor subscription for this time of year. You still get chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are quick and easy to make. Plus, with Thanksgiving and like holiday treats on the horizon, I don't mind a good nutritionally balanced meal. Like, make room now, right? And you can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp, GLP-1 friendly meals, Mediterranean diets, Asian-inspired things, and so much more. I don't know why I got all like, whoa, at the end of that one. Our house always excited to see a fresh box of Factor at the front door. So here's my pro tip. If you've got kids, get the kids like entirely through the bedtime routine, right? Then you can heat up your Factor meal for like just 2 minutes. It's quick, easy, and healthy dinner. Boom, and you can eat it right from the couch. Eat smart at factormeals.com/super50off and use code super50off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code super50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Link in the description down below. And now back to that amazing sock video. All right, guys, before we dive in, I just want to give a shout out to Katy Monson, aka The Kate Debate on Instagram, for inspiring this video with one of her reels. I messaged her about it and she had many thoughts, and she posts other fun Harry Potter stuff too, so go give her a follow. Okay, so why does Dumbledore say he sees socks in the Mirror of Erised? Like, is he just messing with Harry, who has inadvertently asked him a super personal question? Well, yes and no. Like, he certainly isn't being 100% honest here, but having just spied on Harry's own very personal experience with the mirror, I think he believes he owes him at least a nugget of truth. Well, metaphorically anyway. So let's talk about socks in Harry Potter. Certainly they come up in that scene, but they are perhaps most significant at the end of the second book after Harry escapes the Chamber of Secrets. Lucius Malfoy comes to confront Dumbledore for the audacity of returning to the school, and for some reason, brings Dobby along with him. I mean, not once do we see another wizard summon their house elf along with them out in public, but sure. Maybe it's like when you find like a sweet rock on the ground and you just like start kicking it like, well, I guess this is coming with me. You're coming home with me. Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. In any case, Dobby helps Harry realize that Lucius is the one who planted the diary on Ginny and sets out to free Dobby in the Great Diary Sock Gambit of 1992. That's what my pitch for the title of the book should be. Harry Potter and the Great Diary Sock Gambit of 1992. Now in the movie, Harry just puts his sock in the diary, but in the book, he puts the diary in the sock. And I so hope that's what they do in the reboot, because it just sounds disgusting, for Lucius to have to like handle the sock more directly. Anyway, after he fishes the diary out of the sock, he tosses it to Dobby and accidentally frees him. Oops. And the point that's being established here is socks equal freedom in Harry Potter, which I'll admit, not an idea I'd ever given much thought to, but upon inspection of literally every instance of the word sock in the series, I have to tell you, this is clearly an intentional pattern as it comes up over and over and over and over. Now, most often, as you might expect, it does have to do with Dobby, or else, Hermione knitting socks to leave around the common room, and yet, sure enough, whenever socks show up, freedom is close by. For example, Mrs. Weasley fussed over the state of his socks and tried to force him to eat 4 helpings at every meal. For context, this is after Harry has been rescued from the Dursleys in Chamber of Secrets, and what Molly is actually fussing over here is the state of Harry's freedom, which, until her sons did something about it, was really quite in a state. "What's that?" said Ron, looking over at a freshly unwrapped pair of maroon socks in his hand. "Dunno." Harry ripped the parcel open and gasped as a magnificent gleaming broomstick rolled out onto his bedspread. Ron dropped his socks and jumped off his bed for a closer look. "I don't believe it," he said hoarsely. "It was a firebolt." Harry is always the most free on a broom, where he feels the most at home. It's the one thing he is naturally good at with no training. And it's no coincidence that as he opens this extravagant gift, Ron is simultaneously opening socks. It was very cozy sitting by the fire, listening to the gentle patter of the drops on the window, watching Hagrid darning his socks and arguing with Hermione about house elves. Look at that. Hermione is talking with Hagrid about repairing house elf freedom while Hagrid repairs socks. "Tell you what, Dobby, here you go. Take these two and you can mix them up properly. And here's your sweater." This is more Dobby stuff, but it's a great example of Ron freely giving clothes to house elves, subtly aligning him with S.P.E.W. despite his own criticism of Hermione. It's like almost like they're supposed to be together, Almost. Hermione all the way. You guys know this. Come on, welcome to the channel. Do you have time to hear about Red Moon? That's Ron and Luna. I could, but I won't. I want to. You can watch this video. I want to. I'm not gonna. I'm moving on. Back to socks. The other way they come up a lot is storing things in socks. And this is a pretty recurring theme as well. Like Ron puts his prefect badge in his socks for safekeeping, which represents his own freedom from Harry's shadow, in a sense anyway. And not for nothing, leads to a broomstick. Then Harry hides the Felix Felicis in his socks, and that one feels pretty self-explanatory. But for the sake of it, it unlocks, all of the luck in his brain, and he can just see the entire world as it is and knows exactly what to do. He's like completely free.
Not to mention the pincers.
Then in Deathly Hallows, when the three are captured by the Snatchers, people who are deliberately trying to deny you your liberty, Hermione manages to secure their most valuable beaded bag of stuff by stuffing it down, you guessed it, her sock. Now on the flip side, I can already hear you guys all yelling about Uncle Vernon's knobbly old mustard socks. Don't worry, I hear you, but don't you worry, I got them covered because these are a gift from the Dursleys, and as such, they act as the inverse of all other socks. What Harry stores in this is the sneakoscope that Ron gives him for several years because it just won't stop spinning. Geez, what a cheap gift shop piece of crud, am I right? I'm not right. It is working exactly as intended. The thing is, whilst he hides it in Uncle Vernon's socks, he is blind to the truth of the spinning that is warning him about Peter and Mad-Eye in books 3 and 4, two people directly responsible for capturing Harry at the end of Goblet of Fire. Vernon! Justice. Now, of course, Harry eventually rectifies this by regifting the socks to, well, you guessed it, Dobby.
Of course.
Classic. But perhaps my favorite example of all of sock freedom is right here as Umbridge tries to leave the castle unnoticed. But unfortunately for her, she met Peeves on the way, who seized his last chance to do as Fred had instructed and chased her gleefully from the premises, whacking her alternately with a walking stick and a sock full of chalk. Makes your heart sing, doesn't it? But do you get it? All she does all year is deny the students more and more freedoms, but is eventually chased out of the castle, being beaten by the symbol of freedom.
Master has given Dobby a sock.
Huh? Now, granted, the whole sock equals freedom thing is not something the characters themselves are aware of. It feels more like that intangible kind of magic that just keeps popping up. But at the very least, it is a very intentional literary device and recurring bit of symbolism for the reader. But with that said, if any character in particular is capable of noticing this, it would be Dumbledore, who also happens to make this meta comment in King's Cross. Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that it is not real? For context, that's the final sentence before the very final chapter, and whilst Dumbledore is talking to Harry, he's also winking at the audience, saying, this all might just be a story, but we all experienced it together, and that's what makes it real. So thanks for reading, and now please enjoy the ending you've all been waiting for. But speaking of Dumbledore, let's get back to him and his comment about socks in the mirror, because the payoff on that comment is quite long. It starts when Harry and Dumbledore go to the cave to hunt for the locket, and Dumbledore consumes the drink of despair and relives all of his worst memories with Grindelwald, Aberforth, and Ariana. Then we fast forward to Harry finally meeting Aberforth in the Hogshead, where Harry finally gets the story of Ariana and how she lost control one day and she accidentally kills her own mother. Which I'm just gonna say, not nearly as funny as some deaths in this series. Harry also learns that because of this, Dumbledore's world tour gets sidetracked by having to assume the role as head of the family, a responsibility he clearly wanted to be free of. Maybe not openly at first, but certainly after Grindelwald arrived. At last, my brother had an equal to talk to, someone just as bright and talented as he was. And looking after Ariana took a backseat then, while they were hatching all the plans for a new wizarding order and looking for Hallows and whatever it else was they were so interested in. Of course, Aberforth is greatly upset by all of their planning and scheming, and the tragic fight that kills Ariana eventually breaks out, which leads to the very important line, "Course Grindelwald scuppered. He had a bit of a track record back in his own country, and he didn't want Ariana sent to his account too. And Albus was free, wasn't he? Free of the burden of his sister. Free to become the greatest wizard of the
century, according to McGonagall.
Age, I think is what he was going to say there. But that's his opinion. Aberforth says at last Albus was free of the burden of his family, and he has been stewing on that version of events for the last 70 years. But Harry is not about to stand for it and hits him with some hard truth. He was never free. The night your brother died, he drank a potion that drove him out of his mind. He started screaming, pleading with someone who wasn't there. Don't hurt them, please, hurt me instead. He thought he was back there with you and Grindelwald. I know he did. It was torture to him. If you'd seen him then, you wouldn't say he was free. Dumbledore was never free. He never forgives himself for what he considers his own role in the destruction of his family. Then if we fast forward a little more to King's Cross, we get a vague hint from Harry about what Dumbledore actually did see in the mirror. At last he knew what Dumbledore would have seen when he looked in the Mirror of Erised, and why Dumbledore had been so understanding of the fascination it had exercised over Harry. And you can probably guess what it is based on context clues, but the author has also revealed in an interview exactly what Dumbledore saw. His family, alive, whole, and happy, including his parents, Ariana, and a reconciled Aberforth, which was his deepest unspoken desire. An image of his family, whole and united. An image that would mean he was free of the guilt of his own decisions that had blasted them apart in his own quest for power. Something Dumbledore had learned early on he was not to be trusted with, but failed over and over and over with when tempted. When he thinks he's found the cloak, he borrows it from James, only for the Potters to die shortly after, unable to use it to hide themselves further. When he finds the ring, he can't help but put it on at the cost of his own life. Even the Elder Wand, he takes it as his own to tame it, in his own words, and yet Harry, when faced with the same decision, uses it just once to repair his own wand and then abandons it. Dumbledore was never free, and it's the thing he wants more than ever, which is why when Harry asks what he sees in the mirror, he winks at the audience and tells him, "Socks."
These socks are amazing!
Guys, one more quick shout out to Katy Monson for pointing out the whole socks equals freedom thing. You can go check her out on Instagram, link in the description down below. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave a like on it if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see why indeed Ron should be with Luna, you should check out this video right here. It's gonna surprise you. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, oh no. Crap, now I can't unsee it. I promise, check it out. Otherwise, until next time, Ben, I will see you in another life, brother.